Hey Jeremy, Guy from Midwinter Minis here. I love your fantasy builds, but you know me, I'm a 40k fanatic. I challenge you to make some grimdark sci-fi terrain, but here's a twist. We are only allowed to use water pistols and toy guns. I mean, you can use glue too, and paint, I suppose? Anyway, let's do this. Good luck, lots of love, Guy. P.S. I hope you enjoy losing.
Well... He didn't say how many I could use. Okay, I gotta tell you guys that the last hour or so of working has been real poopy. I cut out all these MDF bases and I was using my scroll saw in the basement and it broke beyond repair, so that sucked. I finished off cutting them off with the jigsaw, which is really awkward and annoying, but it works. Took them outside to sand all the edges with an orbital sander and an extreme thunderstorm came rolling in, so I tried to quickly do it in the tiny little overhang of the roof. My room still smells like burning plastic from dremeling all these pieces. I had the crazy exhaust fan going, open window, all that, but it still is a bit stinky. Now it's time to actually mount all these to the bases. I'm gonna hot glue them in place, and then I'm gonna need some kind of modeling compound to build it up. I'm all out of Sculptamold, which is what I would normally use, and Amazon is still sold out of Sculptamold. Thankfully, I have some really wonderful friends, specifically my friend Luke from Luke's APS Geek Gaming. He hooked me up. He sent me a bag of his modeling compound to try out. Came yesterday, so just in time to do this project. He also sent me a whole bunch of his base ready stuff, which I may or may not use on these. I don't know. They'll get used eventually. But for now, let's attach these things, put on the modeling compound. While I finish airbrushing out these bases, I need to take a moment to share with you the sponsor of this week's video. Easy Roller Dice Company has launched another Kickstarter for a new style of super cool gaming dice. This time around, they've gone for a crazy color spray effect. Maybe you want to get a themed set to match your favorite RPG character, or maybe you're a game master and you'd like to get a whole bunch of damage dice in a blood-splattered red. Well, you can do that. If you want to get a whole bunch of D6s or D12s or D-whatevers, you can select just a bunch of those dice in any of the cool colors. I'll put a link in the video description below so you can check them out and grab a set for yourself, or maybe consider grabbing a set as a gift for one of your fellow players or your favorite game master. Thanks Easy Roller for helping me bring another cool build video to my viewers. Okay, it is day 2 here, and day 1 was a pretty big success. I got quite a bit done, and actually, I probably could have finished the last step on these if I hadn't messed around with so many unnecessary painting steps. If I were to do this again and have a better plan, I could probably bang these out start to finish in one day. You might notice this one here is not painted up like the rest, and this one, well, it didn't even get primed. I realized I didn't like them. This one really just looked like gun handles, and I don't know, I wasn't feeling it, so I didn't bother. This one here, you know, I wanted to use as much of the water guns as possible, but it really has this weird 1950s retro Buck Rogers look that just isn't grimdark to me. I don't like it, so I didn't continue with it. I'm gonna put it aside. Maybe I'll end up modifying it and using it for something in the future. Now, the final step is to add the actual sand flocking to this. And like I said, my buddy Luke sent me a bunch of his base ready stuff, and he does have 2 that are desert sand and stone, but it's pretty big aggregate and there's not necessarily enough to do the whole thing. I also want to try to make the bases sort of match this battle mat that I have here. So what I'm going to do is use the same sort of method that I used when I did my Mandalorian diorama and use unsanded grout, but I'm going to mix in some of this aggregate here, and yeah, hopefully it should give me a pretty nice look. All right, I think I nailed this challenge. Come on. I mean, I used basically nothing other than the water pistols. Yeah, I used some material to base them, but for the actual structures, it was just straight up only the water pistols. I didn't add any other bits, 3D printed parts, nothing, nada, just the dollar store water guns. And I'm pretty damn happy with how well they turned out. This was a good project, and I'm really glad that Guy from Midwinter Minis challenged me to do so. If you're not familiar with Guy's channel, it's confusing. His name is Guy and he's also a guy. Midwinter Minis, he does mostly Warhammer related focused painting videos, as well as some other general Warhammer hobby stuff. But even if you don't play Warhammer, which I don't really, you can get a lot of great information from his videos. He's got really spectacular painting videos. He's got some terrain building videos. He should be also doing this challenge, and he should have a water pistol challenge. I hope he didn't show me up because he also has some good terrain building videos on his channel. Overall, he's a cool guy. He's a rad human being, and he's also the king of tackling huge painting projects in a really rational and calm way, getting a lot done in a short period of time. So we'll see how I fared up against him. I bought a couple different water pistols, not knowing, how it would turn out. And I found that some certainly worked better than others. I found that the ones that had more kind of square lines on them ended up looking a lot better than the ones that had that really rounded kind of Buck Rogers look to them. I would recommend getting ones like that. I actually went and bought a few more today because I found that this one was really, really good. It had tons of cool little details on it. It made this one, which is my favorite one. And if I want to do more, I wanted to have a couple of these on hand. These are a pretty simple thing to build, but they do require a rotary tool. I don't think there's a great way to cut these without one. You're gonna need a rotary tool and a lot of replacement discs because they will break throughout the project. I guess if you have a lot of time, you can just hand saw it, but you're certainly not cutting these with a utility knife. That would be really sketchy to do. If you got a rotary tool, you got a lot of water guns, you can bang out a table's worth of this scatter terrain in like a day. It's pretty crazy. I always just wing it when I'm doing paints and I don't plan ahead as much as I should because I'm not Guy for Midwinter Minis. I just wing it. In hindsight, I definitely would have applied the texture effect, the Rusty Vallejo texture paste before priming next time. It would have made far more sense. And when I got it to that point where I dry brushed on the metallics, the pieces looked pretty good, and that's a place you could leave them if you don't have an airbrush and you don't want to move into all the airbrushing of inks that I did after that. You could just spray paint it brown, do some washes, dry brush with a dark metallic and be done with it and get a nice futuristic kind of sci-fi look. I wanted more of that Mad Max style desert look, which is why I then switched gears, did the hairspray paint chipping technique and all the sepia washes, because I really like this sort of scheme and it really matches my base well. That's partially also why I airbrushed the grout on the sand afterwards, rather than leaving it that light yellow, because I wanted it to have that really orangey Mad Max kind of look. And again, to match this particular battle mat that I have. One of the other reasons I airbrushed it is because there were some spots where I missed with my grout. The glue I used is Geek Gaming glue. I tell you right now, you might have seen Luke use it a bunch of times. This fast drying basing glue, and a lot of people comment saying, it's just PVA. Having worked with it, it is absolutely not just PVA. This stuff is a totally different kind of glue. It dries super tacky. Like, it doesn't harden and dry the way PVA glue does. It stays tacky and sticky. And in places where I missed, it was shiny and very tacky. I could have glued static grass to those spots if I wanted, and that was after a day of drying. So I sincerely hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments section below. Big thank you to Easy Roller for sponsoring this video. Check out their Kickstarter. Link will be in the video description. Also, thanks to my buddy Luke from Geek Gaming for hooking me up with some product that I desperately needed to complete this. If you want to pick up any tools and supplies for your own build, first head to the dollar store, get some water pistols, and then check out blackmagicraft.ca. There I have my essential equipment page where I explain and link to all of the stuff that I use regularly. If you enjoy these videos I make and you want to help me keep making them, the best way you can do that is by supporting the channel on Patreon. Throwing a few bucks to the channel every month allows me to do these crazy things like take a bunch of water pistols and build some kind of ridiculous terrain. This is my job. It's totally silly, and I love the fact that it is that way, so thank you to all my Patreon supporters. That's it for this week, guys. See you again next week. Cheers.